Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Signs on Sunday for Timsy Naked Tarots. Now, yes, normally I would do tarot reads. This is my little thing I do on Sundays. Saturdays, Sundays. I pre-record it. It goes out as a premiere, so I can be in the chat live with you all. And basically, I'm just working through the alphabet, picking something to talk about signs-wise. Yeah, when you get signs from the universe, blah de blah. We are up to J, and I've decided to do jails. Okay, I played around with a few. I checked the internet. I put my normal starting bit in, spiritual meaning of J, and looked what come up. Lots of people come up, various different names: Judith, Judith, and Judas, and Jesus, and Joseph, and all sorts of things. But there was very few in the way of. I keep looking over there. I've got something that might fall on me in a minute. I got a deflating airbed because I punctured it, not deliberately. But anyway, lots of names of people, but not so much in the way of things, animals, and whatever. So I then explored a bit further and went into like mythical creatures and things. There's quite a few, but I didn't really think many people would actually know or have signs of many of these things. Like you have the whale snake from Viking mythology, that begins with a J. You have a jackalope, I think it's called, which is an American thing. It's a deer cross rabbit. My hair's a bit of a mess today, isn't it? Really need to get it cut. Anyway, and then all of a sudden it popped into my head. Jails, justice, judgment. All three of them, all beginning with J, all revolving around the same thing. Okay, so that's where I went, and I went looking down that rabbit hole. To start with, I just decided, let's think about what I think spiritual meanings of these may be. Now, jails, that's where I'm heading down. That's what I'm doing today. I do apologise if the sound is a little bit different than normal. If you notice, no earbuds. They've played up on me. They won't charge up, thus can't use them. And I have bought some, but I haven't linked them into my phone yet. So we're doing this old style. And so, anyway, jails, yes. My first thoughts on jails was entrapment, being in prison, not being able to do what you want, loss of your freedom, all those sort of things, which, when I started the research in the internet, were very, very similar for the initial ones. And so what I actually wrote down in my notes was, being denied your right, okay, your rights. When you are in prison, you lose your human rights, so to speak. And so, but then that suddenly made me think, well, your rights are actually like, from your perspective, you may believe what you are doing is right. You may be protesting against the use of oil, or protesting against fishing for sharks, the way the Asians do it. Let's not pick a country. The way the Asians do it, when they catch a shark, cut the fins, throw the body back in, which then in turn attracts more sharks, which they can catch, which they've cut the fins off, because that's all they're using. I hate waste. Generally, as a person, I would, if they took the whole shark, chopped it up, kept the fin soup, or the fins for the fin soup, the big buck money one, fantastic. Chopped up the rest, got some shark steaks out, premium price, I suppose, and then turned the rest into, I don't know, Shiba cat food. Wouldn't have a problem. There isn't a reason I picked Shiba. It's just a cat food, what popped into my head. It could be whiskers, it could be tigers. It doesn't really matter. But if they turned it into cat food, absolutely fine. Especially as there are certain cultures in Asia which actually have cat and dog on the menus for us. So yeah, it's then recycling everything. So, but they believe they're right. That's their right. That's their right to fish sharks like that. Well, a lot of us will think, no, that's wrong. So your rights are from perspective, and that got me thinking about justice. Yeah, because obviously before you end up, well, actually it got me thinking about judgment, because before you end up in jail of any description, you get judged. Okay, which is then all in the justice system. So basically, when you get judged, you get put in front of a panel of your peers. Okay, the jury, another J. Didn't think of that until just now. You get put in front of the jury and they judge you. Okay, they decide what is right and what is wrong. Yeah, obviously they're deciding on their morals and their upbringing and their experiences, and that's why there are 12 of them, and that's why it's an equal spread between women and men, and an equal spread of age, because we all have our different points of view. I'm not getting into the nitty-gritty of how the justice system works, okay, but I'm just basically doing an outline of it all. Okay, and this all comes to bring balance, and that is what the justice system is about. It's why the most things with justice have a set of scales in. I'm desperately looking at all the cards on my table at the moment, which are left out from the last tarot read I done, because I haven't put them away yet. And I was hoping that justice would be in here, but it is not. Okay, but yeah, so justice is all about bringing balance. Now, the balance is the difference between your right and their right, the difference between your wrong and their wrong. And then the idea is you find a happy medium, and then you will serve a sentence which is appropriate, as long as there's no biased blackmail or any other ulterior motive. But I'm starting to stray away from my notes. As I said, it did actually get me going. And I started to think of other things. I started to think of the justice system. I started to think of balance, both of which, as I said, or all of which are all associated with personal views and personal opinions. Okay, you could almost say tainted by them. And that brought me on to thinking, well, throughout time, lots of bad things have been done by what we deem as bad people, but ultimately had good results. And then on the other hand, there is that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That's when people are doing good things and trying to be good, but end up being bad. They didn't mean to, it just happened that way. Like the people who brought cane toads to Australia, I believe it was, or possibly they brought them from Australia to the Caribbean. I'm not 100% sure on that one. But the idea was it was meant to keep down another pest. And now they have plagues of cane toads because they just done too well. The intention was good. Yeah, a natural way of pest control. The results were bad. So again, it's the balance of things. And generally, the moral of that story is just let nature do its thing. It will create a natural predator for a natural pest sooner or later. It just doesn't fit into our speed of things because we want everything done yesterday. But again, starting to digress off of things. So I wrote down my little bit what I thought jails are about on a spiritual nature. On a spiritual nature, it's about entrapment. It's about, I don't know, sometimes it could be getting caught if you are that sort of person who is being a little bit, I don't know, mischievous, treacherous, a criminal. Why not just put it out there? Then, yeah, you may be dreaming of jails. Jails. You may be seeing cars, what say, clink on the back of them, or lock up, or anything else which is a term for a jail. And it could be the spirit saying, you keep up doing what you're doing and you will end up there. Okay. So I went onto the internet and the results came out actually remarkably similar. Maybe they were said in different words, but they did come out in the same sort of way. I'm desperately looking through my notes, trying to find where I actually wrote this bit in my notes. Okay. Just give me a second, vice versa. Yeah. Okay, so jail makes us think of being trapped, being in a cage, and in that situation, you don't want to be in, or be going into a bit of a deeper sort of thing about being caged, having caged off parts of yourself. Okay, maybe there's certain ways of thinking you don't like, so you kind of put up your own spiritual barriers around those thinkings. Yeah, so you try not to go down there. I would like to point out, if you hear anything in the background, snoring, weird noises, and that'll be, I've got both my kids here with me this weekend, and they're both sparked out. Well, because they're kids. What can I say? I say they're kids. They're not. They're my kids. They're always kids to me. One's an adult and the other one's nearly an adult. But anyway, so yeah, so we also close off parts of ourselves as well. We put parts of ourselves in jail, and this is a bad thing, because some of the spiritual meaning about jails is actually bringing balance within oneself. Maybe when you're dreaming of being in a jail, you're dreaming about that part you've put in. Now, if you are not true to yourself, then you're not balanced. Sooner or later, that part will get out, even if it is just an escape attempt and it gets out for a little while. It will wreak havoc because there's so much energy built up behind it. Once that energy is dissipated, it goes back to being down to a level where you can grab hold of it and put it back in the jail. Okay, so which, as I was then saying, brings us into terms of unbalanced yourself, and sometimes justice itself is unbalanced. Okay, you are being unjust to yourself. Anyway, getting back to the internet. Yeah, I had a look, and in a nutshell, it basically said exactly the same thing I said. It said things along the lines of, let's have a little look-see here. Oh, I should do this more often, because it stops me waving my hands around in the camera as well. Helps me not look down at the table all the time, so I'm more looking at the camera. It works good. I'm going to try this in future. Right, okay. So, yeah, in spiritual terms, a jail represents confinement, restriction, as I said, being locked up, being trapped, being stuck in unhappy situations, okay, or being what's the right word? Being inadequate. Okay, I'm a terrible writer. I'm struggling to read my own notes. Being inadequate of doing something. Yeah, you might dream of being in jails because you feel that you're not good enough for your job. Okay, you might be, but you feel. Again, this is like what a lot of our energies in tarot reading does. So we will read the energies around you, and the energies might be saying that you're this brilliant, smart, attractive, funny person. But you might personally think that you're not. You might think you're ugly. You might think you haven't got a humorous bone in your body. And as for intelligence, you're 2 steps up from a chimpanzee. Okay? But the energies are saying, no, all you have to do is get rid of your blockages. And then you can be all those things. But anyway, that's, again, digressing. But it's not. It's actually all part of this, because that's what a lot of dreaming about jails are, or signs about jails. Now, I will just take this point to just point out that these signs will come in many shapes and forms. The bulk of them will probably be in dreams, because that's where we get most of our signs. If we remember our dreams, that is a totally different story. You might see things what remind you of jails, like I will be doing a photograph of this card, because when I get this card out, it always reminds me of a jail, because if you go like that and like that, oh look, you got barred windows. So yeah, that always reminds me of a jail. So you see images of things which will remind you of jails or cells or the legal system. Okay, you might see a pair of scales and like the old hanging scales, the balancing ones, not the sort of modern digital ones we have these days, which reminds you of the justice system and things like that, which in turn reminds you of jails and stuff. And sometimes that's how the signs go. It might be something totally unrelated, but your mind links it to other things, which then makes it related. It could be number plates on cars. It could be conversations you overhear. Now, these signs come in different ways, and the way we interpret it also comes in different ways. We interpret it to what we are going through at the time. Okay? Now, getting back to the criminals, someone who commits a lot of crime, yeah, local burglaries, shoplifting, car theft, anything like that, yeah, they're always on edge. They're always thinking about, what if I get caught? Okay, even if they don't openly say this, again, we're getting back to that thing. The energies around them is, what if I get caught? If I was to put a tarot read on someone who does that sort of thing, I'll guarantee I will get the devil out and the Seven of Swords. Okay, probably the Five of Swords as well, because most criminals actually leave things behind to sometimes gloat that they've done it, and other times just because there's a part of them what don't want to be doing it. And sometimes they're doing it for need and necessities. Other times they're just doing it because they can. Which brings me on to something I actually say in all this. But yeah, it's like the doing things for good and sometimes bad, and doing things for bad and sometimes ending up good. All because you can do it doesn't always mean you should do it. Okay. But yeah, as I was saying, they all come, they're all unique and personal to you. Like, for instance, a criminal would maybe see some barred windows on an old boarded up house which is no longer being used, and they might automatically think, it's my jail cell. Yeah. So they all do come in their own ways. So the other things that spiritually can be indicated by dreaming of jail cells or seeing signs which remind you of jail cells and things is that the universe or your spirit guides are telling you that you're not following your own gifts. Yeah, we all have gifts. There's a talent within every one of us, which is just part of us. Just like the way I speak, the way I look. It can't be helped. It's just there. Some of us are born to play a piano. Others of us are born to be entertainers. Some of us are born just to be really good at confusing people. I think that's my talent. But anyway, so following your talents, following your gifts, and if you're not doing that, then you may be dreaming or seeing signs of jails and things, because you kind of put it in a jail. You're not following it. You're not nurturing it. You're not enhancing it. Okay. And you're just not being authentic with yourself. Again, you're putting yourself out of balance. This last one, yeah, this opens us up to the spiritual prison. Okay. You're locking things away. This is the first way a spiritual prison works. You lock it away. The other way it works is it's being locked away from you. Okay, maybe it's not your time to bring your gift to the limelight. Maybe it's just you've got to learn a lesson. You've got to learn how to handle it. Yeah. You put a gun in a child's hand, sooner or later they're going to shoot someone. They might not mean to, but they will. Yeah. Now, if you've taught that child from an early age how to handle a firearm, they're less likely to. Okay. And that's what the spirit has to do with our spiritual gifts. We have to learn how to handle that power and that responsibility. Uncle Ben. Yeah. Spider-Man fans will know what I'm on about there. Now, spiritual jails, these can come again in different ways and forms. Basically, it's a spiritual growth thing, and your guides, as I said, or the universe will put you in there until you have learned a lesson, learn how to handle whatever you need to handle. Some signs of you being in a spiritual prison is, let's start with the first one, not forgiving or moving on from the past. Now, I can speak upon this one from personal personal experience, because, yeah, I was in a situation once. I was married, I got divorced. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritties of it, but I held a bit of a grudge, quite a long grudge, actually, about the fact that I lost my house out of it all. Okay, I know it's quite sad. At one point in my life, I was quite materialistic, a lot more materialistic than I am now anyway. And I held on to this. And the lesson I had to learn about it all was the fact that it doesn't matter. Your house doesn't matter. Being on the housing market doesn't matter. Having somewhere to get out of the rain and the wind, well, that's important. But you can find that anywhere. You have friends you could go and impose on for a little while if the weather was that bad. You could be homeless during the good times, and then during the bad times, hopefully have a handout from a friend and crash there. If you're in a job when you become homeless, you could possibly talk to your boss and become a night's watchman there as well, and have a little shack when you're set up there. Okay. I know there's probably some legality what stops you from doing this permanently, but it's a stopgap until you can find a new place. Houses come, houses go. It is that simple. And that's what I had to learn. Stuff comes, property goes. I have learned that lesson now. I've more balanced on the whole financial situation. It's the way I see it now is a necessary evil I need to live. So I have to go out and I have to work. I make my money, I spend my money, and I don't have any money. Okay, it's that simple, really. I have enough money on one side if an unexpected bill comes in or something like that, but that's pretty much it. I don't worry about having thousands or millions. It's, in the end, that was just gonna create burdens and hardships. Trust me. Not that I've ever had thousands of millions. You can't trust me on that. That's my opinion. Okay. So anyway, so my whole experience was the whole property thing. I held on to a grudge for ages. And while I was holding on to that grudge, my life wasn't great. Okay. Obviously, yeah, I was coming out of a divorce, but I never really started anything else after that. And I never really committed to anything else after that. I'd committed to that marriage. I was all in. Everything. Yeah, love, emotion, finance, the works. Afterwards, nah, I couldn't commit a thing. I went through girlfriends, to a certain degree. I went through jobs. I become self-employed, and I never really had a steady long-term job because I was going from one customer to another. Okay. So I eventually got myself out of that cage. Other signs of spiritual prisons can be not being true to yourself, as we've already covered. Okay, not following your own gifts, again, which we've already covered. Being stuck in unhappy or unhealthy relationships. Well, I've done that after my split up, and I suppose to some point my wife and we fell out of love with each other, and we went through an unhappy and unhealthy relationship towards the end. But that could be because she was not being true to herself, or I was not being true to myself, or neither of us were being true to ourselves. Okay, maybe we both were a little bit financially minded at the time, and we were just literally staying together because of the house, not the kids. How strange is that? Most people, oh yeah, we stayed together because of the kids. No, we stayed together because of the house. And I think actually when most people strip it down, that's what most people do actually stay together for. Anyway, because normally staying together in a bad, unhappy relationship actually damages the children. They pick up a lot more than you realise. Trust me. You can trust me on that one. Okay, so, but yeah, being stuck in an unhappy or unhealthy relationship. Normally, all these would only take one little change in your life to free yourself from these jails. Okay, it's almost like the Five of Pentacles. Quite often tarot readers will talk about the Five of Pentacles and it's being left out in the cold, but you have the key to get back in. Okay, I sometimes explain it as you have a row with your partner, yeah, and you go for a drive. And then you get back and you're sitting in your car. You calm down, but you're out in the cold. Yeah, you're sitting in your car out in the cold. Dangling off of your car key is normally the house key. Okay, you've got the key to get back in. And all you had to do is go and eat humble pie. Say your apology for the part you played in the upset. Maybe it's a two-way street. Maybe it is all them, but you had a part of it to do. It takes two to tango. Okay. So yeah, it normally only takes one little thing, one little change in your life to change all these. In my case, it was the realization that money doesn't really matter. Okay. I've been in many a situation where I needed cash for something. My car's broke. I need to buy a new car. I need to get it fixed, whatever. And the cash always just seemed to be there one way or another when I needed it. And I slowly but steadily realized that it's not that important. Okay? It's not important enough to ruin your life about anyway. Work yourself to the bone, do risky things, getting right back to that whole criminal thing, stealing. It's not worth it. Finance just isn't worth it. In fact, my personal opinion is finance, money, all that is just modern day enslavement. Your little bit of plastic you spend or use to buy everything. Yeah, 200-300 years ago, that was a pair of manacles and a whip. Okay. Anyway, again, this could raise so many flags on YouTube. This is unreal. Okay, so yeah, let's go to dreams. Dreaming of jails. I have glossed on dreams and saying that they are part of the signs, but as with always, when it comes to dreams and signs, it all depends on how you dream about them. You need to get those details out of those dreams as well. Just dreaming of a jail is just sort of saying there's some sort of entrapment. You're trapped. Someone else is trapped. Someone can't do something. Someone's lost their freedom. It's a big, broad area. So you have to try to pick out the details, okay, while you are having your dreams. Now, I'm no dream expert. I can interpret dreams, okay, but I'm no dream expert. I don't know how to encourage dreams. I know some tricks. If you set your alarm to go off every, about 30 minutes, sooner or later, that 30 minutes will fall in sync of your dreams, or actually more likely the alarm going off every 30 minutes will make your dreams fall in sync with the alarm. And as the alarm goes off, as you're dreaming, it will wake you up. And if you get woken up during a dream, that's when you remember it. It's why we remember nightmares, because the adrenaline that runs around our body wakes us up. It's why we also remember the other type of dreams, which create lots of other type of chemicals running around your body, again, which wakes you up, sometimes wet. Okay. So anyway, in your dreams, you have to sort of dream about or think about who's in the jail. Were you in the jail? Was someone else in the jail? Depending on what to interpret what it means. Were you innocent? Were you in jail but you were actually innocent? That is another thing about signs of jails and things. Were you being released from jail? Did you just see the jail from the distance? Do you keep seeing a jail from a distance? And I have in a couple of my dreams. Now I actually talk about this. It was a tornado, I think, actually, and there was a jail in the distance near the tornado as I was running off to a storm cellar. Fantastic. I just suddenly popped back into my, quite vividly actually, just popped back into my head, that dream. So yeah, it all depends on what is going on in your dreams. As I sort of said at the beginning of the dream part, in general, dreams of being in a jail indicate a feeling of being trapped. Now, this can be emotionally trapped, this can be physically trapped. It doesn't really matter. It's the spirit telling you there is a feeling of entrapment. It's a feeling of the no way out. You may have backed yourself into a corner somehow. And normally this is always emotional, but it can be physical as well. Yeah, you could be having what's called a forerunner in a dream. Forerunners are normally when you dream of someone that you know but you haven't seen for a long time, maybe an old school friend or something like that, and you dream of them, and then a couple of days later you meet them. That's a forerunner. That is the spirit saying, oh, you're going to be meeting so-and-so soon. We ain't seen them in the last 10 years. This will be interesting. Because think of your spirit, yeah, as a separate entity. It has its own life as well as yours, okay? Up in the 5D, it does all sorts of things. It talks to all sorts of people, okay, while you're completely unaware of it. And sometimes it feeds you information. Now, sometimes your brain don't accept this information, yeah, like the bulk of humanity. They get on with their life. They have a thought about someone, don't think any more about it. They see that someone in like an hour later, 2 days later, and again, don't connect the two together. It's fine. But other people who are a little bit more open to the energies, spiritually aware, and the like, they will get that thought about someone, and they will see that someone, and they will go, yeah, I actually knew this was going to happen. Didn't know how, but I knew it was going to. So if you are dreaming of just seeing a jail, for example, like my dream of the tornado, which I think in dream terms is sort of like a calamity going to happen. Okay, I couldn't think of a better word. I don't even know where I got calamity from, but it sounds so American. Sorry, Americans. It sounds so American. I'm just thinking Calamity Jane for some reason, but I had a jail with that. So, and I could see it in the distance. And if you're seeing jails in your dreams, it's indicating that you might be getting betrayed by someone. Now, unfortunately, I might be able to remember the dream, can't remember when I had it, so I can't guarantee to say, oh yeah, I did actually get betrayed by someone. But we quite often get betrayed by people throughout our life, probably once a year, okay, in some small way or another, okay. It might never register, it might never really cause a huge effect of your life, but I'm pretty sure at some point in life you get betrayed by someone. Or it could be a sign that there are some obstacles coming soon in your path you are traveling. And that would normally be in a friendship or a relationship. Okay, if you're dreaming that you are unjustly being imprisoned, this will indicate that someone you trust could be about to cause you some heartache, some pain, or an embarrassment. Okay, it's probably people with children probably dream of being unjustly jailed all the time. Okay, dreaming of escaping from a prison or a jail. Well, this wasn't actually in any of the internet bits I read about, but it popped into my head while I was doing it all. And it's like a temporary reprieve from it. Okay, it's a little bit like how I said about when you cage off part of your own personality, part of your own self, and eventually the energies in that self build up to a point where it breaks out. It's like that. Okay. And now imagine that as a jailbreak where someone's blown the wall off the wall. That's how that one happens. Now, the other way you can break out of jail is doing it yourself. What's it? Shawshank Redemption. He digs his way out of jail. But normally 9 times out of 10, it's only a temporary thing. Okay, it's not a permanent thing. So it's a temporary retrieve from it. The pains and the sufferings which may be getting caused by this closing off will be eased for a little while with the hope of you working on yourself, okay, without the pressures. But then it will be put back on and then the test will be applied. Have you learned your lesson from it or not? Okay. And being freed from a prison, well, that just means that you are sort of nearing your goal. You've nearly learnt the lesson. It's just that little further push, and you found the key to the solution. All you have to do now is find the lock, put it in, and turn it. Okay. Jail or imprisonment is among the few signs, okay, we will ever get which pretty much literally mean that. Now, you can dream of dragons, and they could be all sorts of different meanings for dragons. They could be royalty, they could be luck, they could be devastation. And again, it all depends on what sort of dragon you're dreaming about, okay, or getting signs of. Okay, you might see clouds, which are in shapes of like European dragons. I kind of class them as European or Asian dragons. The European ones being things like out of Games of Thrones, and the Asian dragons being more like big long snakes with little wings. Okay, you know them, you've seen them. So again, but jails, prisons, yeah, they literally mean just that. Some form of being encaged, being trapped, being put away for some reason. Sometimes we put ourselves in a huge prison, and in tarot land we call it the hermit card. That's kind of like going into a prison. Okay, you isolate yourself from society, and you're taking a deep dive into yourself, trying to work out what's wrong, why things are going wrong, this, that, and the other. Okay, it's almost like isolating yourself from the world, so you don't do something that ultimately ends you up in prison. Okay, now yeah, so in spirit it literally means the same thing as it does in the 3D. It's very rare that you get signs like that, but this is one of them. Okay, now I would just like you to feel free to add any comments, and obviously I'm now talking to the people who are watching this. Hopefully the people who have watched it live have been adding stuff into the live chat and things. I should have really mentioned this at the beginning, but instead of at the end, but that's a bit late now, isn't it? But if you're rewatching this, yeah, feel free to add anything into the comments when you're watching this as a video later on. I will get back to all the comments at some point. I'm going to leave you all with this quote before I wrap up and finish my little spiel, okay, which is a quote from Winston Churchill, okay, and his quote was, "Nothing can be more abhorred to democracy than to imprison a person or keep him in prison because he is unpopular. This is really the test of civilization." Okay, now I literally found it. I googled like famous jail quotes, and this is one of the ones that came up, and it jumped out at me, so we used it. Okay, now I don't know the context of this. I have no idea what was asked of him for him to come back with this quote. I don't think he just randomly wrote it down and posted it out. Okay, so there must have been something what triggered this response. And bear in mind, he did go through quite a traumatic time throughout history. He was in both the world wars at various different levels. He made some bad calls, he made some good calls as well, and sometimes he got overruled on calls which turned into good calls. But we're not diving into Winston Churchill, we are diving into jails and things, and there was the mention of imprisonment and keeping people in prison. Now, write in the comments what you think he actually means by this. This is the real test of society or civilization. Okay, I personally think he's saying you can't really lock someone away just because they're not liked. Okay, it's like you can't lock someone away because they have a big nose. I have a feeling he may have been talking about Hitler and the fact that Hitler was, I don't know, trying to eradicate everyone to make a super race of blonde-haired, blue-eyed, 6 foot plus people. Okay, and this is kind of his way of putting it into a term which doesn't imply who or what he is talking about, but does at the same time. Yeah, all because they're unpopular don't mean you can lock them away. Okay, so that is the end of Signs on Sunday for this week. Next week it is Kay. I believe. I don't know. I have to do this with the alphabet every time. I have to run it through my head every time. Yes, K. Okay, so drop in the comments if you have anything you have been dreaming about or seeing that begins with K and would like to look into for next week. If not, possibly I may throw out another poll for it, or possibly just pick something which jumps out at me like I did with jails this week. Okay, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Hope you all enjoyed this premiere and hope you all tune in for my videos throughout the week. I've still got a couple of my career signs to do. So we've got, I think, Capricorn, Aquarius and Pisces to go, which I will be hitting after doing this video. And then we'll be moving on to, currently it's going to be a twin flame read for the full moon, but there is also a poll in my community page on that. If you want your say, there are 4 options which I've given you, plus an option to add your own in if you want, which is others. You drop it in a comment. If others actually wins and outpaces everything else, then I will probably just have to pick one of those ones, which, because by the time I close the poll, it's not going to be too far away from the full moon. So I will then just have to pick one out of it. Okay. Currently, there is only actually one option in there we can have. There's 3 votes in it, I think, or 4 votes in it, but 2 of them were career, which I'm just literally doing. So I'm kind of hoping those 2 people who voted for career have just not had their reads yet. So anyway, all that being said, I hope you have fun. Be good, be sensible, enjoy yourself. See you all soon.